No one ever warns you about living at home after like college or whatever. You're just kind of always in this weird no man's land where you're supposed to act like an adult, but also you're still the kid unless people need something. It's not that deep, I know, but it's just the way it is. Anyway, the reason I'm writing this, I got this text from my mom 2 nights ago that was just off. Like, it was a Wednesday. I'd worked late. I'd missed 2 family dinners in a row, which for us is not a big deal. Sometimes I'm barely home. Sometimes my parents are at my aunt's. Whatever. Usually, if I skip dinner, I'll get a side eye and maybe a cold plate in the fridge. But this time, it was different. I'm getting ready to crash and my phone buzzes and it's this like paragraph out of nowhere. We cleared out your room. You clearly don't care about us. Be grateful we didn't burn your crap. So, yeah, not the usual, don't forget to take in the trash bins text. I had to read it twice, honestly, because it was just so extra. I even showed my roommate Barry. I'm at his place most weekends and he was like, "Dude, are they drunk?" I started to text back. Then my phone buzzes again and it's my dad. Now, me and my dad, we're not exactly close, but we have this unspoken agreement. I handle his tech stuff. He pretends to listen to my life advice. So, when I get his follow-up, I know it's not going to be better. It's just this blunt line. Your cousin's moving in. You'll pay his first month's rent. $1,950 due tonight. LOL WTF, right? Like I'm not even home to defend myself. And now apparently I'm writing checks for my cousin Evange if you're curious. He's the golden child on my mom's side. Always in some transition phase. Never pays his own way, but somehow everyone thinks he's a genius. Whatever. I stare at it. Not even sure if they're being serious. So I text back that this is insane. My mom, and she's fast with the guilt trip, just goes, "Then don't bother coming home. You're no longer family." I know some of you are going to say, "Bro, just move out." And you're right, honestly. But it's not that simple. My name is on a bunch of their stuff because their credit is trash. Long story, but basically my parents started a business a while back. It tanked and since then it's been me co-signing a lot of things so we could keep the house, the car, etc. I don't mind helping, but it's always this back and forth. I'm a burden until they need something. Then I'm the responsible one. If you've dealt with parents who never really got over the fact their kid became an adult before they were ready, you get it. So anyway, I'm not even home and I just sit there kind of stunned. Not like falling apart, just more like, is this really happening? I call my mom. She doesn't pick up. I call my dad straight to voicemail. I text my aunt. She lives 2 blocks over. She's usually the peacekeeper. And she just leaves me on read, which is actually more telling than if she'd replied. The whole thing just feels off, like I'm missing something. I decide to just go back home and see for myself. Barry offers to drive me because I'm honestly not sure what's waiting for me there. We pull up and right away the porch lights off, which is weird because my mom's obsessed with keeping up appearances and never lets the house look anything but perfect from the outside. I unlock the door, walk in, and yeah, my room's cleared out. Not packed up for moving, not organized for painting, just straight up emptied, mattress gone, closet open, everything dumped in boxes in the garage. It's like someone moved out and forgot to tell me. I stand there for a sec, just kind of IDK, processing. My dad's in the kitchen, arms crossed, doesn't say anything. My mom's upstairs. I hear her slamming a door. Ivanche, my cousin, is actually there sitting at the dining table with his phone. Doesn't even look up. The vibe is just different. Not a fight, not yelling, just this weird Cold War where everyone's pretending this is normal. I go back out to the garage and yeah, all my stuff is just dumped. Not broken, but definitely not handled with care. I see my old laptop, some boxes with my name sharped on, a trash bag with clothes in it. I ask my dad, "What is this?" He just shrugs and says, "You weren't using it." I say, "So, you just decided to give my room away?" He says, "You're not here. You don't care. We need the space." I can feel my jaw tighten. I'm mad now, not even trying to play it cool. And I ask, what's this about paying rent for Avenge? My mom comes down, keys in hand, and says, you live here. You help family. You owe us. That's how it's always been. Whenever they're short, it's help family. And whenever I ask for anything, I get the be an adult speech. The worst part is Avang just sits there scrolling through his phone, not even pretending to care. I know he's not going to pay rent. He never does. And my parents just let it slide because it's easier to guilt me than actually hold him accountable. It's always been like this. I'm the safe one, the easy one to hit up for money or chores or whatever. I'm tired of it. So, there's this moment where I just snap, not like yelling, but I tell my mom, fine, if I'm not family, then I'm gone. My dad gets this look like he thinks I'm bluffing. My mom just turns and walks back upstairs. Doesn't even look at me. Avenge finally glances up, shrugs, goes back to texting. It's just so stupid. I grab a couple boxes, take my phone charger, priorities, and walk out. I slam the garage door and I'm not proud of it, but whatever. Barry's waiting in the car. I dump my stuff in the back seat. Before I leave, I remember my spare keys, so I go back to the porch and leave them on the doormat, just like a little foo. I also leave an envelope with a note inside. Nothing dramatic, just says, don't contact me unless it's about something I actually own. I know they'll get it. When I get back to Barry's, he's trying to make jokes, but even he's like, dude, that's harsh. I just kind of sit there not talking, not sad, really, just pissed. I check my phone. Nothing from my parents, but my aunt texts. Call me in the morning. I don't reply. I'm not sure what happens next, but I know I'm not just going to eat this. They want to play hardball. Fine. I'm not their ATM, and I'm not their backup plan. They picked Evange. Let them deal with him. Next part. Things get ugly. I know exactly where all the bodies are buried. Metaphorically. Chill. I set up half their accounts. I'm on the paperwork for the house. They want me out. Let's see how they like it. I'll update if anyone cares. Angel, this is the most awake I've felt in weeks. Update 1. Alright, so part 2, I guess. Didn't think I'd actually be writing this out, but I barely slept last night and everyone's texting me for an update. So, here we go. NGL. I'm still annoyed just thinking about it. So, if this comes out jumbled, whatever. So, I crashed at Barry's place again. Dude's a legend. Not even mad at the mountain of laundry on his couch. Just happy to have somewhere chill to sit. I'm sitting there eating leftover pizza and getting these weird flashes of last night in my head. Like, how TF did we even get here? They really just dumped my stuff and told me I'm not family over. What? 2 missed dinners. My cousins all moved in already like it was planned. Nah, that's weird, even for my family. Barry asks if I'm good. I say, not really, but I'm not going to just sit here and take it. He's like, so what are you going to do? And I realize I have all the leverage and no one in that house has ever bothered to learn how any of the bills or paper works. They just expect me to fix it. I'm not even exaggerating. My dad still calls me when his phone needs an update. So, I start thinking, what can I do that's not like illegal, but still hits where it hurts? And then I remember all the times my parents have said, you're just lucky we let you stay here, but then flipped out whenever I brought up moving out. It's not about love or family or any of that. They just want someone around to solve their problems and pick up the slack. Always been that way, especially since the whole business thing years ago. After that, it's like they gave up on dealing with their own mess and just started dumping it on me. I log into my email, my own, not theirs. I'm not shady, and start checking what I'm still connected to. It's a lot. I set up most of their online stuff back when their credit was trash. Mortgage, bills, utilities, all that. I know all the passwords because they're either my dog's name or some variation of my birthday. They never bothered to change anything. I go through the accounts one by one. First, I check the bank stuff. My name's on their main account because they needed me to get approved. I transfer out every cent that's mine. Not stealing, just taking what's actually like the savings I put in there for the house insurance bill. There's a moment where I'm like, is this too far? But then I remember that text from my mom about being grateful they didn't burn my crap. And I just keep going. I also see they're still using my info for a couple things I told them to switch over last year. Cell phone, internet, even the car insurance. I start pulling my info off everything. Takes forever, but I'm methodical. I know they're going to notice, but I honestly don't care anymore. At one point, I get a text from my aunt. She's like, call your mom. She's really upset. Which is wild because she was radio silent when I needed backup. Now, suddenly, I'm supposed to care that my mom's having a meltdown. Nah. I text back, tell her to call me when she's ready to apologize. I get left on read. About an hour later, my cousin, the new tenant, lol, starts blowing up my phone. He's like, yo, man, why is the Wi-Fi not working? And did you take the Apple TV with you? I didn't, but I kind of wish I had just for the drama. I tell him, it's not my problem. And mute the convo. He's definitely in over his head. He's one of those guys who can't even set up a printer without calling someone. The whole time I'm getting these little flashes of anger, like I keep thinking back to every time my parents made me feel guilty for not being grateful enough or whatever, but then would turn around and make me pay for stuff because family helps family. Meanwhile, my cousin gets a free ride and no one says a word. I'm done playing that game. So, I start the real work. I call up the mortgage lender. Not a fun call, just a bunch of hold music and annoying security question. I tell them I want my name off the account. They're like, are you sure? And I say, yeah, I'm done. It's not instant. But they explain the process and start the paperwork. I make it clear I'm not responsible for any more payments. I also make sure to flag the property for follow-up since I know my parents are behind on a couple months. Again, not my problem anymore. I double-check everything, making sure my info is wiped from the utilities, the car insurance, even the streaming accounts. My parents are going to have to actually learn how to log in and pay a bill for once. I know my dad's going to lose it when he sees his name back on the overdue list. That's not on me. I go through my health insurance next. For years, they've been using my card for random prescriptions and doctor visits, which I only found out about last summer when I saw a weird charge pop up. I called them out and they said it was just easier to use my plan. I take them off as dependent and change my login info. If they want coverage, they can figure it out themselves. While I'm doing all this, Barry's just chilling, playing some game on his Switch. But every so often, he looks over and asks if I'm sure about this. I say, yeah, I'm not going to be their safety net anymore. He nods and says, you do you, man, it's nice having someone who doesn't try to guilt trip you about family stuff. I get a couple more texts from my mom. They start off all angry, like, how dare you do this to us after all we've done for you? But then shift to the classic guilt trip. I hope you're happy you're tearing this family apart. My dad doesn't text. He just sends me a screen cap of the mortgage account showing documents pending. I don't reply. There's this weird moment around midnight where I almost feel bad. But then I remember the look on my cousin's face when I walked out. How he just smirked like he'd won something. Nah, not letting that slide. The next morning, I wake up to my aunt calling. She never calls, always texts. I let it go to voicemail. She leaves this long message about how my parents are freaking out and how I need to come home and fix things. I delete it. I know what's coming. My parents are about to realize how much they actually depended on me for everything, not just money, but literally making their life work. I'm not sitting around waiting for them to beg. I get up, eat some old cereal, and keep knocking things off my list. I go through every account, every bill, every login I can think of. If it's got my name, I'm out. I document it all. Screenshots, emails, even print out the confirmation pages just in case they try to claim I did something shady. I know they'll try to twist it, so I'm not giving them anything to work with. I get some random texts from my cousin's mom, my other aunt, who barely talks to me unless it's like a birthday or something. She's like, you're being so immature. This isn't how family work. I just laugh. Pretty sure she'd do the same if she was in my shoes. I think the only person who actually gets it is Barry. He hands me a beer and says, "Welcome to the club." And I ask, "What club?" And he says, "The club of people who finally stop letting their families walk all over them." Not the most uplifting pep talk, but I'll take it. So now it's just a waiting game. I know my parents are going to lose it when they realize how deep this goes. They can't just plug in a new responsible kid and expect it all to work. I'm not coming back to fix it. I'm not their backup plan. I'll keep updating if people actually care, but I'm just getting started. Next up, every credit card, every loan, every single thing they've ever opened in my name without asking. I'm done playing nice. Things are about to get messy. Update 2. So, this is going to get a little messy. Just warning you. You know how you wake up after a big fight and you're like, did that actually happen? That's what the last day was like. Except instead of feeling dumb about what I said, I just got more pissed off the more I thought about it. I kept replaying my mom's text in my head about how I should be grateful they didn't burn my crap and my dad's little rent bomb. They actually meant it. They really thought I'd just pay up and move on like nothing happened. Like I'm just an ATM with a phone charger in a car. So anyway, I woke up at Barry's, checked my phone for any new drama, and there were a bunch of unread messages from my cousin and my aunt, mostly whining about the Wi-Fi being out and how the old router password doesn't work. 0 about, the fact they straight up evicted me for skipping dinner. Priorities, FR. I started my day with coffee and a list. I'm not a list guy, but if you've ever had to untangle your life from someone else's, you know you got to track everything or you'll forget something important. I wrote out all the stuff my parents still had access to or worse had in my name. The list was longer than I thought. Health insurance, credit cards, some old store accounts, even a couple of streaming services. Not dramatic, but still annoying. My parents always acted like I was just being dramatic when I said they should get their own stuff. Now I get why they never bothered. First up was health insurance. I logged in and yeah, sure enough, they'd used my plan for some random prescription 3 weeks ago. Not the first time. I called customer service, got bounced around, finally got someone who could actually help. I said I needed to remove dependents and they start reading off names and I just say, yeah, cut everyone except me. The lady on the phone tries to be helpful, says, is this a family thing? And I just say, yeah, something like that. She says it might take a day or two to process. Fine by me. My parents can explain at the pharmacy why their card suddenly doesn't work. I didn't do anything illegal, just took away something they shouldn't have had in the first place. The credit cards were next. Now, this part, I know people are going to say, just close the cards. But it's not that simple. Some of these were opened with my info or I was added as an authorized user without much of a heads up. I never really paid attention because I trusted them. And honestly, I just didn't want to fight about it. But after the room thing, all bets are off. I started with the one I actually use myself, took my name off any shared accounts, and changed all my password. Then I went through the ones I never used. Found 2 where I was the primary card holder, but my parents were using them. I called the companies, explained I needed to report possible misuse, and asked to freeze the accounts. They asked a bunch of questions, and I just said, I don't recognize these charges, and I want to dispute them. They said they'd open cases and send me paperwork. I know that's going to get their attention fast because my dad hates paperwork more than anything. Side note, I got a text from my mom while I was on hold saying, "You're ruining everything. Just stop." I didn't even answer. My cousin, meanwhile, kept texting to ask about the car insurance and if I could just fix it real quick. I told him to ask my dad. He replied, "Your dad says it's your problem." I didn't write back. This has always been the pattern. My cousin messes something up. My parents' cover for it blows back on me and somehow it's my fault for not fixing it fast enough. Not this time. About an hour later, my aunt showed up at Barry's place, which was honestly awkward AF. She knocked. Barry answered and she just kind of pushed past him and started in about how I was being childish and tearing the family apart. I said, "You weren't there last night. You don't know what happened." She said, "I know enough. Your mom is hysterical." Your dad is furious and your cousin is basically homeless now. Which is a wild exaggeration because he's literally living in my old room. She tried to guilt-trip me about how hard things have been for everyone, how my parents are under stress, how I should just pay the rent for 1 month so things can calm down. I said, I'm not going to bankroll someone who's never paid his own way. And if you think this is my problem, you're not seeing the bigger picture. She slapped the side of the kitchen counter and said, I can't believe you're doing this. I said, I didn't do anything. I walked out because they told me to. She stormed out, slammed the front door. Barry just raised his eyebrows and handed me a soda. I went back to my list. I sent emails to every company I could think of, removing myself from all joint accounts, utilities, anything my parents still had access to. I called the mortgage company again to check on the paperwork. The guy on the line said it was still processing, but that I was no longer financially responsible. I said, keep me posted. He said, sure. I know my dad is going to absolutely lose it when he gets the letter about the mortgage, but that's not my problem anymore. The group chat with my parents, my aunt, my cousin, and me started blowing up in the afternoon. My dad wrote, you have no idea what you're doing. You're going to ruin us. My mom said, you'll regret this. We're still your parents. My cousin said, thanks for nothing, man. Real mature. My aunt tried to moderate, then gave up and just started writing in all caps. I muted the chat. Barry's roommate came home, asked if everything was okay because my aunt was yelling in the driveway, and I just said, family stuff. Sorry. He shrugged and went to play Xbox. Honestly, I wish I cared less, but I'm still just sitting there running through every possible thing they could try to use against me. I changed my passwords again just to be sure. I even checked my old school accounts and social login just in case, not taking any chances. At one point, I thought about maybe just letting it go, but then I remembered the way my dad looked at me when he told me to pay my cousin's rent, like it was just a given, like I owed them that much for existing. Nah, I'm not letting that slide. So, yeah, I cut every rope I could think of. Health insurance, credit cards, mortgage, utilities, and even the dumb stuff like the family Spotify. Not because I wanted to be petty, but because I'm done being the safety net. I set up all my own stuff. Banking cards, subscriptions, fresh login, no shared passwords, no more, can you help me reset this text? I even changed my phone number just in case they try to blow up my phone again. Now it's just a matter of time before everything lands on them. I'm not going to lie, it feels weird, but also kind of freeing. I know my parents are going to try to guilt-trip me, maybe even threaten legal stuff, but I've got receipts for everything. And honestly, I'm not scared. They made their choice. Now they can live with it. Next up, waiting to see if they actually do anything or if this is just another one of those things where they yell a lot and then act like nothing happened. My money's on yelling, but we'll see. I'm not backing down. I'll update when the real fallout hits. You know it's coming. Final update. You ever wake up and the group chat is just silent? Like dead silent. Not even a meme from my cousin or my aunt's usual good morning fam chain spam. That was the first thing I clocked when I opened my eyes. I thought maybe my phone glitched, but nah, it was just the calm before whatever this family storm was going to be. So, I get up. Barry's still asleep, and I scroll my phone. Nothing from my parents, nothing from anyone except a text from my cousin at like 3 a.m. saying, "You're messed up, bro." I ignore it. I make coffee, eat some old toast, and try to act like I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop. Nigel, I kept checking the window because I just knew something was coming. I even put my shoes on just in case I had to go outside and deal with whatever. It's maybe 10 o'clock in the morning when I hear a car pull up and slam to a stop out front. I look out. Yep, it's my parents' car with my aunt's SUV right behind. I guess they decided to roll deep for this one. They don't even bother parking straight, just halfway in the neighbor's yard, doors flung open. My mom is out first barefoot, which is weird because she never goes anywhere without her stupid slippers. She's yelling before she even gets to the driveway. My dad's out next, and he grabs one of those plastic patio chairs and just heaves it into the yard. My aunt's not even out of the car yet, but I can hear her crying so loud it's echoing off the houses. I text Barry, who's in his room, like, heads up, incoming. He comes out half awake and just stands next to me at the window. He goes, "You want me to call someone?" I shake my head. I'm not scared. I just want to see if they'll actually try to come in. My mom's at the front door now, pounding on it and yelling. I can't really make out what she's saying except my name over and over and something about ruining the family. My dad's just pacing in the yard, muttering. And then he starts yelling about lawsuits and how he's going to sue me for everything I've got. He picks up another chair and throws it. And this time it bounces off the curb. My aunt finally gets out of her car and she's barely standing, just sobbing and holding her chest like she can't breathe. My cousin's nowhere to be seen, probably hiding in the back seat. I wait. I'm not going out there. Barry asks if I'm good, and I say, yeah, I just want them to see how it feels to be ignored for once. I can hear my mom through the door screaming about how she has nothing now. How I left them with nothing. She's calling me heartless and saying she doesn't understand how I could do this to my own family. My aunt starts yelling too, begging me to just come out and talk. And then she starts crying so hard she's almost gasping. My dad goes around the side of the house and starts yelling at the neighbor who peeks out and just closes his blinds. There's a bang. My dad shoves the garbage bin over. My mom's still at the front door pounding and yelling, and then she just sits down on the step, barefoot on the concrete, sobbing. I guess it finally hits her that I'm not coming out. They go back and forth for a while. My mom crying, my dad yelling, my aunt just standing there shaking. At one point, my mom pushes my aunt away, and my aunt just sits down in the grass, totally done. Barry's roommate comes out of his room, takes one look, and goes back in with his headphones. I finally open the door enough to be heard and say, "You told me I wasn't family, so I'm not. This is what you wanted, right?" My mom starts screaming again. My dad stomps over to the car and slams the door so hard it bounces open. My aunt gets up and tries to pull my mom into the car, but my mom just shakes her off and keeps yelling. Eventually, my dad grabs her arm and she yanks it away and slaps him. He backs off and starts yelling at her now, too. Nobody's on the same team anymore. After what feels like forever, my aunt finally gets my mom into the car, still crying. My dad stands in the yard just staring at the house. He yells something about lawyers and says, "You'll be sorry." I just shut the door. Barry's like, "You good?" I say, "Yeah, I'm good." I go back to the kitchen, pour myself more coffee, and sit at the table. Outside, I hear my dad arguing with my aunt. More yelling. And then both cars peel out of the driveway and down the street, tires screeching like it's a movie scene. I get a couple texts after that from my parents, mostly threats and weird guilt trips. My aunt sends me a long message about how family is forever and I should fix this before it's too late. I block them all. I don't need to hear it. The rest of the day is just weirdly quiet. No one calls. No one comes back. I go out later with Barry, grab food, try to pretend it's just a normal weekend, but I know things are different now. I made my move, and I'm not sorry. They wanted to play hardball, and now they know what it feels like. Not going to lie, I don't know what happens next. I'm not waiting around for some magical apology or reunion. I'm just done. They made it clear where we stand, and for once, I finally listened. Anyway, that's it. If you're reading this and you're stuck in the same kind of mess, just remember you don't have to let anyone walk all over you, even if they're family. Sometimes you got to burn it down just to walk away clean.